Ever since Starbucks was founded in 1971, the company has always been committed to ethical sourcing. And we even developed our own ethical sourcing guidelines for sourcing coffee, which are generally regarded to be amongst the highest in the coffee industry. And as part of that commitment to ethical sourcing, we've been buying fair trade coffee ever since the year 2000. In 2008, we expanded the relationship with fair trade, and over 2009, we doubled the amount of fair trade coffee that we purchased to 18 million kilos, which makes Starbucks the largest purchaser of fair trade coffee in the world, and we're very proud of that.
Starbucks avoids paying UK taxes in 3 ways. First, it makes its UK units pay a royalty fee on intellectual property. The fee is paid to Amsterdam-based Starbucks Coffee, EMEA BV. The second way Starbucks dodges British taxes is by allocating its earnings to its supply chain. Starbucks buys coffee beans from the UK from its Swiss unit and roasts them in Amsterdam. The third way Starbucks dodges British taxes is through intercompany loan. Starbucks UK unit borrows money from the group's companies and pays them interest.
As rows in the sector go, this one was a whopper. Starbucks had been found to have paid no tax since 2009. After a public outcry, it voluntarily agreed to do so. But that asks the question, to what extent should companies and their tax advisors exercise their own moral judgments?
So what Starbucks did is, it wasn't illegal, it wasn't tax evasion, it was tax avoidance, which is perfectly legal. They shifted some of their profits from this country to another country where they paid lower tax. You could argue it's standard tax planning, because doesn't everybody want to pay a lower amount of tax? However, because of the pressure that they came under from the public, and because they wanted to sort of save face, they said, okay, we're not going to do that, we're going to keep some more of our profits in the UK and pay some tax here. So essentially, they voluntarily paid tax. They didn't have to, but they did. And that, it begs the question, is it right for company accountants and tax advisors to bring their own morals and ethics into the workplace when it comes to advising their clients? And we're all different people, and I think that yes, there certainly is a place for bringing your own morality into the workplace.
Yet not everyone agrees. Some argue there should be one moral guardian for the industry: the law.
So Starbucks made an arbitrary tax payment, but in my opinion, that's a confusing and dangerous precedent to set. It's not for Starbucks to decide how much tax they pay. There's the law of the land, and they have to follow that. It's quite clear that they were following the rules, but obviously people are unhappy about this. In the public domain, we've seen politicians making a big noise about this during committee meetings. Those are the guys that are responsible for the rules. So where's the sense in making what is a SOP to keep people quiet? It's not a tax payment, it's to keep people happy, and how tax advisors are meant to manage that process and deal with that morally and ethically, I've absolutely no idea.
The government is putting its finishing touches to the general anti-avoidance rule. And while this will deal with some of the excesses, it won't deal with all of them. And one thing's for sure, the debate over whether companies are making a big enough contribution will run and run.
That's the tax side. Now what about the damage that may have been done to Starbucks brand? Well, James Osmond is Chief Executive of the brand consultancy Clear. You heard that about the tax side, but in terms of consumer power, this was people power in a sense that forced them to do this. What does it tell us about the damage done to their brand?
Well, I think it has damaged their brand, otherwise they wouldn't be looking to respond in this way. And if we look at other disasters like this that have happened in the past, say with McDonald's and Morgan Spurlock and the way that he led an agenda against that business, it does affect public opinion, and public opinion obviously matters when you're a consumer-facing business. So it has damaged the brand. They've done something to intervene and try and put it back on track, but it will probably linger, and it's just how long this stays in the public's eye which will determine how bad the damage really is.
The flip side is, James, is that there are other companies who could also be accused of doing the same thing. Do you think there's an appetite now for direct action against these companies?
I hope not, but I suspect that the conversation is going to continue. I think what's slightly different about Starbucks is, versus some of the other brands that people are talking about, say the Amazons, the Googles of the world, Starbucks was a slightly different kind of proposition to be going after in terms of tax, for a couple of reasons. First of all, it is a physical space. It's a physical product that they're producing.
You can go to a Starbucks.
Exactly, and you can also very easily not go to a Starbucks. And you can also be noticed for not going to a Starbucks or walking in the front door. So the social stigma that can be associated with making a choice to go into Starbucks when it's not paying enough tax is not so easily associated with something where you're sitting at home with a laptop in front of you, buying things online through Google and Amazon. So it's much, much harder to see how you can build up a real public opinion and animosity towards those brands.
And when you have damage like this to your brand, is it a case that it takes a short time to do the damage and a long time to fix it?
It can vary. I think the trick is to fess up when you've made a mistake quickly and get on the front foot very quickly as well. I think what they're doing is a step in the right direction, but for me they've missed a huge opportunity to talk about all the other social contributions that they make to the British economy and to society as a whole. They employ thousands of people. They employ those thousands of people then in turn sort of feed back into the rest of the economy. All the suppliers that they're connected to as well. The ecosystem of Starbucks is probably fairly enormous in this country, and they've completely failed to talk about that positive story.
Fascinating. James Osmond, thanks very much indeed for coming in to see us.